call the meeting to order. Please rise, so inclined, face the flag with a pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are all present and accounted for. Any changes, updates, anything to the agenda, or is it as is?
As is. We are going to be, Josh is going to be coming from a baseball game. I think we have everyone from track, but there'll be a few people coming in. I'm going to cover Jake because he's coaching. We're missing a lot of coaches tonight.
Okay, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as shown.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kurt. Do I hear a second? Jerry? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Scheduled presenters, United Way Packing for Weekend Food Program.
Yeah, the Coils or Stacy, you can just stand there if you want.
Right here?
Yep.
Wherever you're comfortable.
My name is Stacy Coyle, I do the downtown the local coordinator for the Packing for the Weekend program.
Maybe
You know,
I
I-
was wrong,
yeah, I
Stacy.
bet
We're
Dick's
got your
gonna
back
let
to
you
the
know.
camera.
Oh.
So,
Why don't you come take my spot and I'll come stand there. That way you can present that way. There you go.
thank you. You can share if you like.
No, that's fine. I brought with me my husband Joe Coyle, he's a local Rotarian, so if there's any questions when we get to the end about the Rotary's involvement with the program, he's going to answer those for you.
Yes.
I'd spoken with Derek recently, and he had mentioned that he thought it would be a really great idea if we came and just kind of updated you on the status of the program, introduce people to the program that maybe aren't just familiar with it. So just quickly, a little bit of history. Back in 2011, Maureen Nelson, the director of United Way, so I remember the counties, Goodhue, Wabasha, and Pierce counties, came to the Rotary and said, here's this great program. Would you guys be willing to help us raise funds and manage the program here in Cannon Falls? And the Rotary went back and talked about it and decided that they would. And that they're following gala, they raised the initial money to start the program. And in January of 2012, we started sending backpacks home to the elementary kids at the elementary school. About a year later, they came back and they got together, United Way and Rotary, and said, let's expand this program to the middle school. And so Rotary again raised additional funds, and we've expanded. So now we are currently sending bags home to elementary, middle school, and high school students. So what is this Packing for the Weekend program? Beth might know the number better than I do. Somewhere between 20 and 25% of the kids
Those are free and reduced population, yep.
are on free or reduced meals. So for many of those families, the only food that maybe their kids are getting in a day are breakfast and lunch when they come to school. They may or may not have dinner when they go home. And where it gets tough is on the weekends because they can't come to school and get breakfast and lunch. So what we do is we pack a bag with a breakfast and a lunch and a dinner. And we've got a snack, so pretzels, and then also a fruit. And what we also, and it goes home in a backpack that looks similar to this. What we also do is send home vouchers that look like coupons. They can go down to Econo Foods. And depending on the week, they can get a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, and a dozen eggs. Now they get a loaf of bread once a week, a gallon of milk every other week, and we send home eggs about once a month. But we tried to make it look like a coupon so it doesn't really stand out. As far as our volunteers, we send these bags home every week of the school year. I have a great group of volunteers that come in. The groups that are involved have been involved since the beginning of the program. The Knights of Columbus come in one day a month. National Honor Society students pack for us. Interact students pack for us. And then also the Rotary comes in and packs for us. And I have a special group of kids that come over from the Riverside program that occasionally have a month where we have 5 weeks that we need to pack, and they'll come over and pack that 5th week for me. They have also helped with, you can't probably see it, but the vouchers are embossed just so that they know that when they get it to the grocery store, it's a legitimate coupon from us. They've helped me do that. When kids forget their backpacks, we send the food home in plastic grocery bags, and they will help me double bag those bags. so that the bags don't fall apart on the kids when they go home. And I am also approached all the time, people saying, if you ever need help, let us know. And occasionally we have people that somebody might forget. I have people up at the school that are like, well, let's go do it, and we get it done. So people are always real supportive of the program. Currently, families sign up with, at the beginning of the year at the elementary school, we send a sign-up sheet home. Families send them back to Janae Blakesley at the elementary school, with Kirsten Hoffman. Up at the middle school, high school, we don't necessarily send out a big wave of sign-up sheets, just because there's some issues with social stigma and things like that. So it's really more Kirsten Hoffman knows some of these families and will approach them and have people sign up that way. Currently, we are sending home 35 bags, which reaches 75 kids. 25 of those bags go to elementary families, and 9 of the bags go to middle school, high school families. We're currently working on ramping up for our summer program. We do, summer is even harder because they don't have those meals even during the week. So we still send home a bag once a week. Families that are currently enrolled in the program through the school year can sign up for the summer program. We don't open it up to everybody. And they pick up a bag once a week at a local bank. So, and that's worked out pretty well. We don't have nearly as many families that sign up. It's usually somewhere between 12 and 15 families that sign up for the summer program. But we feel it's been pretty successful, so we're continuing it on. And then I also wanted to just note the school staff that helps with this program, and really, without their help, it wouldn't get done either. Janae Blakesley, she manages the family and the paperwork at the elementary school, and actually Kirsten sends her paperwork down there, so she keeps track of all of the paperwork. She also distributes bags on Fridays to half of the school building. Julie Rich distributes the bags to the other half of the elementary school. And then Rick Myers is instrumental. We order all of our food from Channel 1 Food Delivery, or Channel 1 Food Bank down in Rochester. And he helps me get the food off the trucks and down to the packing room. And sometimes that's a bigger job than others. Last week we had 870 pounds of food that we loaded. So, and Kristen Hoffman up at the middle school, high school, she is working with the families and getting them signed up for the program. I think sometimes she helps to deliver bags when Deb Clegan isn't available to get the bags where they need to go. And then, of course, Beth and Tim Hodges and Derek Bell are instrumental. Without their support, it wouldn't happen. So, I don't know if
I
anybody
think
has
you're
a
missing
question.
the key person, and that's you. We all really, if you've been to a recent Rotary meeting or anything, you would hear us. This program would not have been off the ground without Stacy. And I know they've all heard that a million times, but maybe this group needs to hear it too. I don't think you often give yourself enough credit when well due.
I don't know if there's any other questions about the program or anything.
Warren, what do you pack the bags?
We-
Elementary or?
We pack at the elementary. We have a room that we have storage in that we share with the Reading Corps volunteers. It kind of depends on the week. The National Honor Society students like to come over on that early release day. So they come over after school's out on that day, on Wednesday usually. Most of the other packing is done at about noon on Thursdays. If we have a short week where the kids aren't there, they leave, their last day is Wednesday, we'll pack on Tuesday, so everything's packed the day before the end of the week. So, any other questions?
This is just extremely impressive to me.
Yeah. And those numbers of 35, that's pretty typical. There's a little bit of fluidity with that number, but that's been a pretty typical number in the last couple of years, so it's definitely needed.
Let me mention one thing about the funding that you didn't mention. Rotary did kick it off. They needed the money to kick the program off a couple of years ago, and also to extend it into the middle school. But the majority of the funding now is actually provided by the United Way. So when you're doing United Way drives at work, or whatever, when you're trying to, the fundraising that they do, a lot of that money goes to programs like this. They have a Packing for the Weekend program here in Cannon Falls, Red Wing, Lake City. I think there's 5 of them, if I remember correctly.
Wabasha.
So the Cannon Falls Rotary does commit to $2,000 to $3,000 a year in support. The remainder of it, which is probably about $10,000 total for the year, comes from that United Way. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's just remarkable, you know. I think the first year, would it be safe to say we had 7 families kind of kick it off? And it's grown into what it is now?
By the end of the first year, we were well into, I mean, we had up to 30 families at one point.
But
the first year.
that start, the kickoff, I mean, weren't we about 7, 10 families or something?
Yeah, probably
It's
started out.
really
it's
transformative.
Started out a little slow.
I think a lot of it was just getting the kids to take home that backpack, and they like that it's just like any other backpack, you know, that's what's nice. Yep, they bring it back on Monday, and
Well, some of
sometimes
them
they
do.
forget. Yeah. You know, we eventually get them back.
How long has this been going on?
We started packing in January of 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Great, very cool.
Thank you. Next up is public forum. If anyone wishes to speak to the board about issues of the school, we'll move on. No old business. Under new business, item A, consideration to approve the family medical leave act request.
Yeah, we have a 3rd grade teacher, you know, this one was a little unique. Deb Catterlick, you know, hurt her back, kind of thought I'll be out for a little bit. It transformed into something a lot bigger. She is going to be on leave for some time, and so we've decided to go ahead and do family medical leave for Deb Catterlick. We do have a sub that we're all very comfortable with. She's done a great job. There's a lot of communication going on, so I think we're okay with that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jerry, second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Josh. Further discussion?
So is this to the end of the school year then?
You know, we'll follow medical advice on this one,
Okay.
but after 15 days, we just want to make sure that the sub gets what she needs, and it gives Ms. Catterlick that option of what she needs to. You know, a lot of times she's just waiting on doctor's appointments too to give her the all clear. So we'll keep you posted, but we don't know.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to approve a part-time teacher request.
This will be for Lori Jackson. For quite some time, she and Sue Samuelson have job shared and done a part-time position. What's interesting about this year is this is the last year that she technically, we had a 10-year situation where she could do the part-time teacher. So next year we'll be looking at maybe a possibility of something else or an extension of that, or however we want to do that. But for the first one is Lori Jackson. They both have submitted and been accepted by Mr. Bell to teach Title I for next year for Ms. Jokala. So they will be job sharing that position.
Okay. Look for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Josh made the motion, Brenda seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.
Next one is just for Sue Samuelson.
Yeah.
You have to have it this way.
Consideration to approve a part-time teacher request. This is the Samuelson one.
Correct.
Same story as the previous.
Correct.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Kurt? Second?
I'll second.
Josh? Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to approve the 14-15 revised budget.
We're going to attempt to wait for Josh to come back. If not, this is really easy. I can walk you through this, but since he's put his heart and soul into this, it'd be nice if he could present it. But if
Okay.
not, then we'll go ahead and do it later.
We'll jump back as needed.
Yep.
Consideration to approve the sports supply budget reductions.
Right. Jake is not going to make it, so I will walk you through that one. For quite some time, we've talked about, you know, we did some reductions with teachers, and we've done round 1, round 2. And kind of this third session, we're just looking at some things that you have requested as a board to look at everything. And one of those is the supply budget. If you look at attachment B, page 4, our current entire budget is $29,425. After he met with all the head coaches and looked at all the programming, we thought that we could get that down to $21,425 with a reduction of $8,000. I know your goal was 10. I can tell you we really did go line item by line item and make sure that, one, kids are going to have the safety things that they need. Okay, that was really important to us, and things that they legitimately would need too, like spikes for track or things like that. So this is the best we could do. If you want us to go back at it, we can, but know that anything deeper than this, we would need to find some other form of funding to protect the safety of our kids. So it's a little bit different out of each and every budget. Each coach kind of came forward and said, I could do without this for the year. What's important about this reduction, please know that this is just for this year. The other reductions, when you reduce an FTE or something like that, that's long-term. This is a one-year fix, but I think under the circumstances, we probably need everything we can get. So if you have any questions, I can help you.
I'm not sure we ever pushed for 10. We pushed for as much as we could possibly.
That's fair, okay. I think I had heard the number 10. That's a good point. Thank you for clarifying that. I think we were shooting for that number, a certain percentage, and we came up with 8. We're pretty, coaches really did a nice job. They deserve the credit for this. They came up with that.
I was hoping for 5.
Okay.
All right. I would look for a motion to approve these reductions.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I will second.
And again, we're committing to a 1 year and understanding that this can't happen on a continuing basis. We're just tightening our belts for a year.
Right.
Any other discussion?
Nice job.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to approve the reduction of cell phones.
Okay, this one, can turn into a conversation. We don't need to talk about it in length tonight. I am going to hand out this. We had a good admin meeting on this today. Bob, you and I are going to share it because I'm going to save on paper.
Yep.
At the top, you'll see what we currently do. All the people that are admin that either receive a phone from the district or they pay into the federal account. And what I mean by that, and I'll use myself as an example, I opt to pay into the district. My phone is not covered by the district, but I do get the government rate. And you can tell that $50 a month, that's a great rate. It's unlimited data, unlimited mobile to mobile, and it is also unlimited texting. So I take that out of my paycheck, and so does Josh. The other ones that are listed are people that we think legitimately need a phone. They definitely use it for work. There's no question about it. The people on that list are using their phones. What's happening is E-rate is changing. And does everyone at the table remember what E-rate is? It's how we get a lot of our technology funding. It's a lot of things that we do through WeTech. We apply for these grants. It's federal money. The way that E-rate is somewhat looking at this is, we're moving forward with technology, and believe it or not, a phone is they're kind of considering it old technology. So for the next 3 years, they're going to wean us off, if you want to say that. Is it 80-40-20 or 60-40-20? No, I forget. I think it's 60-40-20. Next year, it's 60% they'll pay for phone services for a certain amount of people and a certain percentage. That's why when we did reductions before, I needed a couple people to be off the plan, and that was Josh and I. This gets to be kind of a touchy. I know it's a small amount, but our bill, this month, and I have that here, was $1,390. It adds up quite quickly. And this month, an example, we had some overages and things like that. That happens in your home bills as well. We're just trying to kind of get a grasp on this. So the phone plan that we have under 15-16 is what we were proposing. Anything highlighted would be a change. I've talked to transportation. Andy is going to cover Joe is going to go over to his personal phone. He has opted to do that. That is a choice by him. And also our head of food service, she got the walkie-talkie system that we've now implemented in all of our buildings, mostly because a lot of our cell phones don't always work. So the walkie-talkie system is what we've adopted. So she too will get the option if she wants to pay into the federal account for the better rate, which she is opting to do. So that would be a 2 reduction there. And then hotspots are, is an additional service that we're just not, and you guys all know what a hotspot is, but we're not going to have that on our devices anymore because on the computers and things like that, pretty much everywhere you go, you get some sort of internet service. So with that, those are the recommendations. We had a great admin meeting today. There's definitely a need for that. Some admin carry a personal phone and a work phone. Some don't. As you can imagine, it's tough to carry 2 phone numbers, 2 phones in your pocket. You're telling staff to call one number, but you have a work on the other one. My phone number is public, you gotta be careful, do I really want kids, Matt's kind of a troublemaker there, do I really want him having the phone number of a principal? Those kinds of things are things that we had a really great discussion on today. The way that I thought after that meeting that we could maybe meet in the middle is the actual device itself. Could that be provided by the employee? Right now they all got a free phone, it comes with your service. But in the future, let's say you drop it in the river or you smash it or you're on top of your car, all those things that can happen to your phone, the actual device itself could be paid for by the employee and we provide the service because we do call them a lot. Lori and I have this huge log by log. We don't print this every month. We don't even get it. Josh would have to request it. But the number of calls between Lori and I is excessive. We talk a lot and we have to be ready for the next day. With that said, this is a good way to show savings. We didn't make any administrative cuts. It was the one area that we still never really reduced anything on. We have to eliminate overages. If anyone goes over, they have to pay that. We can't do that. Most of the people are using it for personal and work, and so that's where it gets a little glitchy. I don't want anyone to ever get in trouble for that, but we've also never said you can't do that. But with overages, we have to watch it. So with this proposal, we could have a cost savings of $3,000, but again, this isn't something that has to be decided tonight. You might want to have an opportunity to catch, the principals or Lori. No one's losing their phone. I think that's what's important here. And I think we need to provide that service for them. But I think we also need to show a way that we're meeting in the middle. E-rate eventually is going to get down to a very low amount. We're not going to always be able to cover phones. So take questions.
I guess I'm a little bit confused. So really, we are making changes, and the changes would be Joel's going to be covered by Andy.
He currently pays us back now, but it's a bill back, so it doesn't work as well. We're getting a bill.
So I'm wondering why are we paying for transportation? Well, we don't even do our own transportation anymore.
Well, Andy is covering that. That's what I'm saying. It's a change on here.
And that's what I'm asking.
Yep.
So that would be the change, and then when it would be going to the payroll deductible.
Correct. And then we'll take off 2 hotspots. If you look up above, they had 2 hotspots. And then the other big one, the big savings would, if you break your phone or need a new phone or want the latest phone, you pay for it on your own.
I can understand if you want the latest one. Why would we carry insurance?
Why would we carry insurance?
Why wouldn't we with all these phones?
But it's not our device. If they break them and they replace them, why would we pay the insurance on the device?
They're technically the school's devices that are given to the employees.
We do have insurance on the phones. It's just that there's a replacement cost.
You get one free one.
Right. And after that, I guess I would expect anybody.
With the federal contract, unlike a private one, it's a 1-year update. So hopefully within 1 year, you're not destroying a whole lot of phones, but
Right.
yeah. As I said, we have to maybe consider it on a case by case, but it is a little better with the federal rate. It's a 1-year contract and we get 1 free destruction of a phone or whatever.
So we're
Semi-covered.
Covered.
Yeah.
The other option we talked about today is having everyone have 2 devices. If you want to use work, have it just work, and then we could lower our minutes, or we could work on something like that, and then have your personal phone. But we have to find a balance here. We can't spend $16,000 a year on phones, or $10,000, or any of that. We've got to find a way to reduce this somehow. I like paying for my own phone because then I can use it how I want to use it. Some people don't want to carry 2 phones. I like having 1 phone, but I pay for it, so it makes it easier. Everyone's got kind of a preference. So.
And if they don't mind paying for overages, I mean, if they have overages, they're paying out of their own pocket anyway, correct?
Right.
No, they would be.
They would be. Right now, they're not.
So with this E-rate going down, how will that look on paper? Let's say next year goes down.
Well,
40%.
instead of them covering $50.49 reimbursed, we'll get 80% of that. E-rate will only reimburse us for that amount.
Okay, so we'll have to continually adjust the plans, because they're gonna come back, they're gonna be increased on our cost a little bit more.
Right.
So it's, okay. And right now, under the federal plan, the devices are picked by the employees, they get them, they get 1 for replacement.
You have to ask Josh on that part of it, I don't know.
Yeah, most of them are iPhones, but mostly a picture device, and you've got, we're on a 1-year contract or 1-year upgrade if you wanted to reboot the phone. Most private ones, I think, are 2-year. If you were to break it, you get 1 free replacement of the phone.
Is there any deductible?
Not on the first one, no. After that, there's really no insurance, you pay for the full amount. I think that's part of the deal, of having it as a 1-year upgrade instead of a 2-year upgrade. You do pay the same rate, so for now, you know, you look at most rates, and your iPhone 6, I think, is a $200 buy. That's what we would pay for it. There's no $700 1-year fee sort of deal. It's the real good rate to buy the device. So you get a great deal on the device, buying it through the federal plan. But if they wanted to have a new one every year, it would cost $200 every year for that person to have the latest phone. Or $300 if they go for the 64 gig or whatever device it is.
Right.
Do most people use the same phone as their personal phone?
We have a couple people that have a personal and then they use the work. And if you have that system, you're not going on, you don't have any overages because you don't use your phone that much. You know, we have, I think more people email now, some text, mobile to mobile within our own, like Lori, I don't even know what our minutes were, 700 some, and I would say 80% of those minutes were to Lori, but because we're mobile to mobile, there's no charge on that.
So what are your minutes?
We get 400 each.
400 each, and they're all pooled, so there are 11 on the contract, there's 4,400 minutes pooled each month.
So, for example, Josh only used 49 minutes.
32 or 40, whatever it is.
Okay, so let's pretend he used 50. The other 350 went to the pool to use. So that's why, and we really shouldn't have overages at this point, so we want to try to get that kind of under control.
So you just like to have your own private number for your own, but
No, I have one, I like it public. For me, in my position, everyone should be able to call me. You know, my number's on the webpage and everywhere, but it's a little different. A superintendent, people want to be able to have that connectability with you, and it's important that they can call me whenever. If they drive by and see the school on fire, they should be able to, exaggeration, but, you know, I think it's a little bit different. I don't think Tim Hodges necessarily needs every 16-year-old sending ha-ha funny to his phone number. You know, I don't know how public we want that number. Do you know what I mean? So I can see where he wants to keep his number kind of private, but yet the district is paying for it. So it kind of becomes this, how can we balance? So my idea, and it is my idea, is just if we pay for the devices, at least if something was to happen, it brings down our cost. It's a savings here. I think we say to the taxpayers, hey, the school isn't providing your personal cell phone number. You know, that there's some cost to the employee.
so basically this is a benefit more than anything.
Correct.
I would say it's a necessity.
I would say it's a necessity.
What's the benefit? If I need to get a hold of Beth or Tim or Derek, it's a necessity that they have a phone, just
I
like
know,
having
I understand.
Dave having a phone.
Right, I'm
I
not
wouldn't say
saying-
it's a benefit.
I-
It's more of a pain in the butt than anything.
No, I don't know, I think there may be a select few that might need that, I'm not so sure if all of them need it.
I think it's a way of doing job. I mean, it's like you having a car is not a benefit, is it? You need your car to do your job. The phones today, we need them to do our job.
Right.
So, but I still say, in a way, they could still do it without it. It just wouldn't be as easy.
I'm okay with them reimbursing for overages. That makes sense to me, especially if they're using them for personal. And I agree with Joe, you know, only in that he's not a school employee. But everything else to me is kind of a negotiable item, and I don't feel comfortable with a
Well,
lot of the other areas.
I'll go back to the overages. If you're all in the same pool, right? So everybody in here essentially, except less Dave, is in the same pool. And you're included in that pool. And you're using, there's how many minutes? 4,400?
400 each, so
400
11.
each.
Yep, times 11.
So you have 4,400 minutes a month, right? Just for hypothetical sake, what if you're using 3,200 of them? And split between them, they're using the difference, and the majority of their calls are all school related.
Well, again, we pulled up the document, and that there is a lot of personal calls
I'm
too.
just
Okay.
asking.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I would say everyone that goes over 400, it would be the overage. I
They,
think you use 400 as your number.
they prorate, so if 3 people were over, and say one person was over their 400 minutes, X number, that proration gets billed back on overages to that person. There are no overages billed back to mine because I was under the 400.
Right.
If someone was over 400, they get prorated those overages, so it says.
So it is divided out 400.
We're not charged for the overages unless it goes over the pool though, right? So they shouldn't be charged unless the pool goes over.
Correct.
They just
Right.
showed it that they used over 400, but there's no additional charges then.
Right, unless the pool is over 4,400.
Right, gross, okay.
And then once it is, it takes
That
that
makes
number
sense.
over and prorates the ones that were over.
Right. So what happens, and in the case, let's say someone leaves the school district, who owns the phones currently?
We do.
We do, so they keep them with,
They can keep their number, but we keep the phone.
okay.
So minute-wise, do you feel like with personal calls versus school-related calls that we need, like a plan, like how far down the road do you think it's, like how urgent in that respect?
I don't think there's any real urgency. I think we're
Okay.
just trying to find any reduction we can at this point. $3,000 savings is a lot of iPads for next year, so I'm just trying to find money for technology that can be in students' hands. I know a lot of districts require you to have a personal phone and a work phone.
Okay.
That just keeps it makes it easy, But I also can appreciate, because I have one phone, I like having it all in one. But I do know a lot of districts require you to have it just for work use only.
No, I guess, in the spirit of how Bob likes to say things, I don't want to micromanage this, why don't we just give a dollar amount and you figure out how to use it? Do we need, nobody needs the phones and how to use it, what the plan is, or do you say, Beth, here's the number that you need to hit for your plan? Go.
Sure.
Who manages that?
Well, right now it's E-rate, so that's why, the only reason why this got brought to the board, and I thought a great question was asked prior to this by one of the administrators, is why is this even going to the board? You have to remember, anything that's in the budget that's under $5,000, I can do anyway. We're well over that, and we're moving it out of E-rate. So when Josh starts, kind of bringing numbers to you and talking about the budget, this is going to be an add-on. We will have to pull it from something. There will be something that will go down to make this happen. So it was important that I brought it to you. Otherwise, I would not bring something so minor to you, but in the same breath, there's some big changes coming. What are we gonna do when only 20% of this is reimbursed? At $1,300, that's half a teacher. We've gotta, I just gotta bring it to you to make those decisions, so.
What type of timetable do we have? I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have till July 1. E-rate's good till July 1. We can make this a discussion.
I just wanted to ask, because Derek and Tim are highlighted, or any changes there?
It's because they had a hotspot and we would remove the
they have
hotspot.
What service do you guys have?
Right.
It's Verizon.
That was the hotspot, okay.
Yeah, you can download free hotspots onto your phones, well, not on iPhones, but.
That's why we can't carry them
Are you proposing that each staff member pay for their phone initially, or just pay for an
No,
upgrade?
everyone has a phone. We don't have any new people on here. Everyone gets a phone, they get the device. It's any changes or updates after that.
Mine are fine.
And just so you know, all those devices can be written off on your taxes, so even if you were to buy a new device, you can use that as a tax write-off.
So is this a discussion item or?
Yep.
Okay.
July 1 is the changeover date, so just have to know how to, because we're trying to, May you will see the next budget, so we're trying to get that together and what we should.
I think we should look at moving more people over to walkie-talkies.
Well, everybody on here does have a walkie-talkie, so.
I'm
yeah.
kidding.
Well, it's a discussion item, it shows action, but it's a discussion, so carry that information with you, and if you have any questions for Josh or Beth, talk to them in between meetings and see what you come up with. Let's jump back to D for the 2014-2015 revised budget.
Charlie Lake came back from Moon Lane as softball coach, and Mark Whitson says hi, by the way, he's on our game.
Oh.
Hard for him to get down that low.
It is, yeah, especially junior high softball. So we got here, and I think this is probably the easiest and most efficient way to display the revised budget. It's just a one-page summary, and it breaks it down in I guess the furthest is you can boil it down to is just by fund. In my office, you'll have the 72 pages of the 17-digit codes that all this makes up, but I think it really is easiest to kind of go through and easiest to digest and broken down by fund. If you look first in the middle section of numbers, that's the original budget that was adopted May 19th, 2014 for the fiscal year 15. And just to note in there, general fund, you see the difference at negative 400,000. We had set out in the beginning to spend down the fund balance by 400,000. So important to note that as we start. And the expected audit total, what I do there is I take the fund balance based on the audit finalized for fiscal year 14, and you'll take the fund balance, you'll add the revenues at your budget, subtract the expenditures at your budget, and that will come up with your expected audit total. So we were expecting an audit total of about $919,000 if we hit exactly based on the original budget. And I think really, we can talk about the other funds, but the general fund is really the key one to talk about. So up on top now you have the revised budget, and that's what we're looking at to approve tonight. You'll see the revenues are a little different from what they were to start out with, not by a whole lot, but about $60,000 off. In terms of percentages, that's less than 0.5% difference from the original budget. Expenditures, they're off a little bit too, but we got a little bit tighter on that, a little bit better, $22,000 less in expenditures, and in the big ballpark of picture of thing, that's 0.2%. So overall difference, negative $436,000 in the general fund based on the revised budget. Again, that's exactly, we hit exactly how it goes. There is a chance that you may see the revised budget one more time before the end of the fiscal year, just so it's real tight, so you can have it as close as we can for audit purposes. But based on the revised budget now, your expected audit total for the general fund would be about $883,000. That's that top right number. Very important that we recognize or realize on that, going into fiscal year 15, $242,000 of that 883, or that first starting balance in the general fund, is reserved for things like health and safety and separation of benefits. So it's really not money we can touch. So at the end of fiscal year 15, if we hit the budget exactly like this is, of that $883,000, we have $642,000 unreserved in general fund. As far as the business manager and where audit comes, we're going to be a little nervous on that because it's about 2/3 of 1 month's worth of expenditures built up. Most auditors would like to see 2 months. We in the past have gotten by on this. It's not a real comfortable thing in the office, but day-to-day business goes on, and we have to make sure that we are real mindful of where we're at. It could lead into some anticipation borrowing next year, especially if we're not able to balance the budget, which we're going to go into probably deficit spending again in fiscal year 16. There is a very good likelihood that we'll do some anticipation borrowing next year. Again, not the worst thing in the world. We've done it in the past, but just as far as the day-to-day operation in our office goes, it makes us make sure we're really watching things. But so based on this revised budget, we'd be looking at about $883,000 in the general fund at the end of the fiscal year 15, and like I said, approximately $650 of that would be unreserved. That's the main fund. This is the one we really have to keep an eye on. That's where the majority of our expenditures are going to come out of. In food service, you'll see that we're spending down food service about $22,000. Should leave us with a fund balance of about $80,000. Although we are spending down, you might see that as a negative thing. We don't want to have an excessive balance in the food service. It's nice that food service is making money and subsistence on their own, but that balance that we're going to have at the end of the fiscal year is a nice balance for food service. Community ed, you'll see that as being spent down too, or some things done to make some salaries more in line with teachers, and then some technology upgrades to community ed as well. And you'll see that that fund balance has decreased a little bit, but still in a spot where we were a little bit in danger of having an excessive community ed fund balance. And this brings us more in line where we're going to be, should be fine. And again, it's a nice fund balance for Jake and community ed, but it's something he's going to want to keep an eye on since we did deficit spend in 15, and he didn't want to deficit spend continually and get to a spot where we don't have a fund balance in community ed. But probably an appropriate measure in the fund to make sure that we don't get dinged from the penalty from the state. We get penalized for having excessive balance in community ed. Debt service, that's really kind of out of our hands, other than if we have a fund balance in there, we can manually reduce our levy at times. And at times we've done that to help reduce some of the burden on taxpayers. We receive 105% of our levy for debt service because they assume a certain percentage of delinquent accounts and we receive taxes. Fortunately, in our counties, we receive pretty good, generous portion of our taxes back. and we start to build up a fund balance in our debt service. If it becomes excessive, the state takes it from you. If we do it on our own and do a manual adjustment, I think it maybe looks a little bit better publicly too. It shows that we're trying to be mindful of what we're hitting taxpayers for. At $200,000, it's really not a whole lot of money, and I don't know that's something we can manually reduce. I think that's something we're gonna have a different conversation as we get closer to levy time, but we'll have a fund balance in debt service, and that's good. Trust and agency is our scholarship account. That will adjust a little bit, I think even based by what you guys might approve tonight with the Hernkey scholarship. But that is more of a self-sustaining scholarship or fund. You can't really pay out a scholarship if we don't have the funds there. So some of them were built on a trust and they received some interest. The interest rates have been horrible the last 4 or 5 years, so it's really hard to build some of those up. So you'll see some declining balances in the trust and agency, but in all, a positive balance. The OPEB trust fund is our 10-year plan of a $1 million bond that we went out for to help pay for other post-employment benefits. The plan has been to spend down about $100,000 each year. After this fiscal year, we have about 4 years left of that, where we can draw in some funds and put it into the general fund to help reduce that obligation for other post-employment benefits. And then OPEB debt service is just the debt servicer payment on that $1 million bond. The idea in the theory and beginning of it is that the debt service payment ends at the same time we take our last draw on the OPEB. And that again is going to be something in the next couple of years we want to discuss and talk about if we do that again, or how we want to fund those obligations going, because they're not going to go away. So that's kind of a recap of an overview of the fund balance. Now I've got a summary, a 5-page summary that if you guys want to come to my office and help look through, or if you really want to get into the detail and go through 72 pages of 17-digit code, I've got that for you as well. But I think this is probably the best way to get it through to go. So if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer what you have.
When you talk about aid anticipation borrowing,
Yep.
in the past we've done that. Our collateral, so to speak, was the legislative, we were just borrowing it because they were 90-10ing us or 80-30ing us, 80-20ing us. If we borrow this time, it's not against any legislative.
No, but we do understand that we will be receiving money from the state. A lot of the times, you know, we get the 90-10, the 10% cleanup usually happens in August. So what you're really borrowing against is that big payout that we'll get back in August. And usually when we have aid anticipation certificates, they're set to pay back by September 15th. So we received our last ideas payments, we pay back the cash on aid anticipation borrowing. We've gone a whole bunch of different ways of doing it in the past, local banks, through ailers, all sorts of different ways of doing it. I haven't done a cash flow for fiscal year 16 yet, so I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be at. But given the fund balance we have, there is pretty good possibility that we're going to have to do some anticipation borrowing. Not the end of the world for certain, but yeah, you don't have that 60-40 gap like we had in the past with moving funding around.
You'll see quite a bit, if it ends up going 1%, and I'll get into that in my superintendent report, but with that, we already know 1% immediately is $76,000 we didn't have from the year before. So depending on where that all lands too, and aid anticipation in a lot of schools is probably going to occur, just to kind of keep getting you through, because it doesn't keep up even with the inflation of things. So something a lot of districts I'm sure would be looking at.
Any other questions? Statements, anything? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the 14-15 revised budget.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kurt. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Josh. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Item G, consideration to approve the Marie Hernkey Hospitality Scholarship. Attachment C.
Okay, you can see that on the last page, on page 5. You know, this is standard procedure to accept every scholarship, but I also think it's an opportunity to thank the family for putting something together like this. You know, you can read all of the elements to the scholarship, but I think anytime we can get, you know, these type of things out to our kids for school is just a remarkable thing. So again, thank you to the Hernkey family for a $1,000 scholarship.
Make a motion to approve.
Brenda made the motion, Jerry seconded it. Other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried. Yes, thank you to the Herndons.
I want to say I still miss the Edgewood.
Love it.
Going back that day.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, reports. Board members? I'd just like to expand on some conversation that we've had about super valuations. Somebody dropped the ball on that. We're not gonna point any fingers in any direction but mine.
Did you guys see you have a binder now?
Yes. And don't be
Laura.
disturbed about Gemini. We're doing what we need to do to here save money, so. We got free folders. But we will have a workshop to discuss eval. So we're totally prepared as a district and as a board. And we'll do that on 4/20. I think I got 5 yeses that we're okay for that. You have another commitment, understandable, we'll just catch up. So we'll do it on 4/20, which is a week from this evening at 6 p.m. And
Will you need me at that meeting? Or would this be kind of a prep?
I don't think so. I asked Lori to be there just to make sure that we're crossing and dotting everything for about 10 minutes time, and then after that, out you go. So
Because I
that's
won't be able to be there for that night.
okay.
Okay, thanks.
You gonna do it here, or?
To be determined. I'd like to take it out if I could, if everybody's okay with that. We met at Mill Street. We read, huh?
As long as it's quiet.
Okay, that would be my 2 cents worth in for the board members. Does anybody else have anything?
Just any, with Jake not being here, Beth, if you just ask, do we know anything about the booster clubs as to whether or not they'd be able to donate anything from their clubs at all?
I know that he reached out to them. I think you were CC'd on a couple of the emails.
Yeah, and the other two
And-
would not
No,
yet.
and they were all pretty much no's, you know, I think they like the system that they're currently doing. So I didn't hear any yeses, if that's a good enough answer. I will double check with Jake, but I was CC'd in all those emails and he reached out to all of them. They just, you know, they currently have a tough time providing what they currently are doing, and so, you know, band boosters and all of them just really kind of felt they were at their limit on providing, so.
And I asked you a question, I know you're gonna bring it to the admin. I don't know if you did or not, but you remember the question?
On the evaluation?
No.
Because we talked a lot about eval today. You'll have to remind me what the second one was.
Just a couple weeks ago, school policy on sports.
Oh, you know what, we did not. Jake and I had a meeting on it.
Okay.
If you want to review it with the committee, that's fine. Or do you want to wait till I get feedback from the group?
Doesn't matter to me, I
The-
just,
The biggest one was Jake, you know, what we talked about is making sure that homework policy, you know, if a student misses practice because they're working on homework, should they be penalized in a varsity game? Or a really great example that I thought Mr. Stevenella brought forward was, you know, if a student attends Math Masters, and that's a club or, you know, something they're paying to be in, if they go to that, that's considered missing practice and they have to sit out a certain, you know, part of the time. We're seeing more and more kids are in all these activities and they're kind of having to pick and choose where they go. And so it did create a good conversation, I thought, with Jake and I. We had a really great meeting on it. It's a tough thing because some head coaches really want to stand their ground and feel that, you know, if you're in speech, you need to be dedicated to speech, and if you miss practice, you know what happens if you miss practice, right? A lot of the coaches that we kind of informally talked to felt very strongly that it teaches discipline, and you know, maybe Matt can attest to that. We've got a student, you know, activities member here too. The tough thing is when you're in basketball and Math Masters, and both are important, you know, where do you decide to go and when do you decide to do it, and which one trumps which, and those kinds of things. So I don't think we're ready at this time to move on changing any policy, because the AD met with, you know, some of the coaches. If you want to take it any farther, we'd be willing to call a meeting. I don't know if this is something that definitely goes to admin. I think this is more, you know, Jake's department, and we need to see where he and his head coaches, that would be more the team that it needs to go through. So I think he did follow through on it, and I do feel like he got information back to me. I did not bring it up at admin because we didn't really feel like the elementary principal, Mr. O'Keefe, you know, those people that are at admin, Sharon Noble and those kinds of people, that was really worth their time to talk about that.
I see, I guess from my point, it's more of I understand the discipline of the sport, but the commitment to your grades and your academics. So if you've got finals coming up, and the question is, do you miss practice to study? Or do you go to practice?
Sure.
Make the starting lineup. What are we saying to our kids? What's more important?
Sure.
I want to be involved in those meetings the next time they come up, because I'm in absolute agreement with you. We're offering all the students in the school many different opportunities, and some of them are taking advantage of going to a master's or whatever it is, and then they're getting penalized on the sports side. What's wrong with the coaches?
Right.
There's something definitely off there, and it's stemming from the coaches. And I just have a huge beef with it.
You know, and even,
I just wish we would have talked about it. We just approved the policy was it 2 board meetings ago?
kind of revisited.
Right, it can be, but it's, the timing of it was kind of unfortunate, because I do think it's a really great topic, and we didn't have any formal meetings, just so you know, because you are the rep and you would be at that. It was Jake and I, and then Jake, going out and talking to some of his head coaches, so we could have, maybe that's the way to do this, is just have a formal meeting, whatever you think.
Well, I was thinking that this belongs in that extracurricular group, and
We don't really have an.
well, I know it, and
Okay.
I talked to Jake about it, and I think at least a couple of us have, but this is not the time of year to bring it to anybody's table, because that's about as busy as they get right now. So I would like to see that extracurricular group convene. I know nobody stepped forward in the coaches, but I think we end up starting to appoint people.
Sure, okay.
And I think it belongs in that camp, and I'm sure Rob could, attend one of those meetings and just throw that out.
I mean, I think we're on the same page. You know, my concern more is the message we're sending when the coaches, and I understand it's a choice sometimes. But at the same point, I guess if a coach were to look at it and say, I want to put my best players out there as well, if you've got your #1 starter who stayed home to study, he's got to now sit. Now you put your 2nd through 6th player out there, or your 2nd through 12th player on the field, or however many you've got. You've hurt your own team in a way, but I think we should focus on our academics. And if someone's, now, I understand if you're screwing around, but if we got academics, we've got some serious AP classes going on, we've got all kinds of higher level education that it challenges these kids.
Sure.
It's student athletes.
Right.
Student first.
Right.
I think it comes down to, we mentioned it before, what is the goal and what is the purpose of sports?
Right.
And where does the definition of what they want to achieve in certain grades, where does that all play a factor? Whether it's a committee or a group that gets together and talks about it, I think there's a lot of discussion that needs to be talked about. And, how do you inform the parents as what the expectations of sports are?
Well, we can open up the handbook. It is really good timing, because we'd be looking at fall for the next round of this. So what a great thing to maybe do over the summer or something. I will CC you all in an email as a follow-up, so you'll see it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we should just get all the extracurriculars on board. I mean, with the activities that I'm in, speech and play, they definitely understand that academics have to come first. But I do have to notify them, because they want to know, they want to keep in touch with me. But they do recognize that academics do come first, and if not, then I can't be eligible.
And I'm good at that. When you're notifying your coaches ahead of time that you gotta miss this because you're doing this, because it's for academics, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, it should.
And there should be no discipline because you're trying to improve your academics.
Mhm.
But when you're sitting players because you're missing for something academically in sports,
Yeah.
there's a problem.
We need to get them
It's a
on
huge
board,
problem.
yeah.
Right.
Rob's
You're teaching them nothing, other than sports is more important than your academics. That's what they're teaching them.
Rob's comparison that I'm missing an event to go home and go to study. I'm a C- student, and I just decide I don't want to go to practice. I'm going to go home, and I get my parents to back me up that I went home to study. To me, that's just as much real world as anything, because I think kids they'll say, hey, look, at our new policy says I can go home anytime.
True, but I think the coaches are going to know their students. And if you've got a C student who is marginal on the field and might go home, I don't think we're going to be talking much about that player. If they're a rock star player and they're trying and they're 100% across the board, they're either going to be at practice or they're going to be studying. I think they're going to be doing one or the other. Then I'm going to go, I'm taking the day off. It's kind of fun. I just want to go hang out. I don't think those are going to be we may find that, but I don't think that's going to be your academics who are concerned with it, or your starters who are really thriving to be the all-around academic.
I can agree with it, but I think if we start legislating those moves, that's when we get in trouble. If, you know, I'm not sure leaving it up to coaches is right, but I'm not sure putting it in print anywhere is right either. That's just a personal observation.
I'd have more issue, not so much with the studying portion of it, and you're right, I think the coaches can decipher who's gonna and who's not gonna.
Right.
But if they're going to a math masters or something
Right.
like that, and they're still getting punished the same,
Right.
that's where my beef especially would be.
And it did come down, I think, in some cases where some of the kids decided they weren't going out for one of them, so they could do the other. Well, then one of the other ones hurt,
Right.
ultimately.
And I get, if you're a student in humanities, there's certain times of the year where they're in a crush to get their projects done.
Yeah.
And I understand where it's gonna come to having to miss practice in sports. So you're gonna discipline your athlete because you're trying to accomplish your academics.
Right.
I think we got
That's a
the
red flag.
point across here, I think, so
And I
that's
did
good.
jot it down, I'm gonna do some follow-up with Jake on the boosters and follow up on extracurricular group and getting that going again. Looking at one topic for that group to start out with, academics before, sports. So I will CC you in that so that you all see the same message.
Okay.
Thanks. Good.
Mhm,
Thank
you
you.
bet.
Moving down to committee reports, Finance Committee, I can speak for Kurt, we haven't met yet, right? We're kind of an ad hoc group. Policy Committee, anything for us,
We
okay?
got through a lot, yeah.
Good.
All those policies were already
Oh,
done?
yeah, we're done though for now.
Yeah.
You're just in a phase.
Mhm.
Curriculum Committee,
We just met before this meeting, and I think what I'm gonna do is defer this to Mike, if you don't mind, Mike. Could you just
not a problem.
explain a whole lot better with the platform here.
Just to get people caught up to speed, we spent the better part of the fall of this school year just looking at 3 vendors, English language arts vendors, that met certain criteria to get to this point this year. And we spent this year working with elementary staff to identify a vendor that we wanted to make a purchase with. We've done site visits, we've had vendors come out and do presentations, we did gallery walks with the materials. And kind of the pinnacle of our research was a site visit to Stillwater area schools. About 3 weeks ago, we visited Anderson Elementary in Bayport and got to see Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Journeys in action and what that looked like in a language arts block. We brought 12 teachers with us on that trip, and when we came together at the end of our trip, it was a consensus that this was a product that we wanted to have in our elementary school. So the curriculum committee met this evening, and we have a draft of a budget that the bid would go out as. At this point, there is not a lot left to discuss. The staff's behind it, the admin's behind it. We're pushing forward to purchase this material and have it in place for the start of the 15-16 school year. So.
And I guess from me being on the curriculum committee as a board member, not understanding the intricacy of this curriculum, that's not where I am, where I don't know anything about Common Core and standards. My concern in general is, okay, we're going to one-on-one initiatives, everything's going into place. We've got this platform basically, or actually the platform, the stage has been set. This is kind of the next step. You know, everything's in place, the tools are there for us. These are going to be costs that, as a board, we're going to have to look at and say, okay, every so often we're going to have to establish a budget to develop or bring on these programs, or these curriculum.
You'll be doing that in May.
Yeah, and this might be something for all of us. I don't know. I myself, I didn't know that this was part of the whole process, but it is. And once we've got everything established, now we start looking at different tools that you'll use with this, or different curriculum you use with the tools that we have provided. So there's going to be a cost, and it all depends. This is for reading, and then there's going to be another one eventually for possibly science and math. All those things that we'll have to look at. It's kind of like going out and buying books to some extent.
It's a 10-year rotation on the
10-year.
curriculum.
Okay, so in looking at this, the administration feels very comfortable with it. In talking with both Mike and Derek and Tim, you know, even though some people may not be on board yet with the one-on-ones, they may not be tech savvy, that they can jump into this anytime. Again, it's a tool that they can utilize. They can still put the pencil to paper and utilize it, and teachers can use their own teaching styles any way they wish. But this is a tool that they can have access to, where it's, again, enhances their learning. Kids seem to be very receptive to it.
How many grades does this cover?
I was just gonna ask the same question.
Fifth grade. Yeah, if I could speak to some of the highlights, it's K-5. Our kindergarten teachers are actually piloting this program now, so you're all invited to come down and check out how that looks in a kindergarten classroom if you want. I'm sure they would love to chip in and help out with that. It is a product that has a scope and sequence set up for teachers. So it would give you an outline of what your weekly lesson plans would look like, your monthly lesson plans, even up to like what your quarterly units would look like. And it provides opportunities for you to use your own resources if you have a book that you want to use for fantasy. Let's say you want to read BFG or something like that for your unit. You don't have to use a specific resource. So the really nice thing about the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Journey series is they give you the instructional ideas. Just want to make sure you guys are clear that curriculum is ideas. And the state put forward, and Common Core, you've heard this thrown around, Common Core is the curriculum. These are the things that students should know at the end of first grade, second grade, and so on. What we're looking at purchasing is a series. It's a vendor, somebody who's going to give us the resources, the scope and sequence, the time frame, the management piece of how to get those skills to our students. So it's a delivery. That's what we're purchasing from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, is how to deliver best practice instruction. Another highlight is everything that they have comes on web content. So you can get access to all of the resources that teachers would use on your iPad, K-5. As we move forward one-to-one, all of the pieces that the teachers would use to teach the Journey series, children will have access to their iPads on it. We got to see that in action in Stillwater in a second grade classroom with the teacher. Some of the students were on their iPads doing some stuff about penguins, while some of the other students were working at other stations, working on some other spelling activities, doing some writing, reading to each other. So Journeys is a great product in that it incorporates the technology for those that are really ready for it. And then there are materials in there for people that want to sit down with a group of students and read and do a story about penguins. The text-based stuff is there too. It's a really great blend of everything. It's a great delivery model.
And could you just tap a little bit on the longevity of it? You know how we talked about that 3 years for a platform like this is, what if it goes away, or they just stop writing programming for it? Or
so in the bid that you are passing around, the electronic site license stuff is for 6 years, and that makes sense because K-5 is six school years, and there wouldn't obviously need to be a purchase 6 years down the road. As far as the materials go, the purchase piece comes with student anthology. So for those of you sitting at this table, if you remember like when we were kids, the Moonbeams, the Rowboats, the kind of the thick book with all the stories in one big kind of, it's called a Basil. They're now calling it a student anthology. Those resources are there, and those books are kind of, they're like the staple to a lot of the delivery piece, but the way that it's written is you can use your own books, you can use your own stories. The themes and the standards aren't going to change. So as far as longevity goes with the Journeys product, it's a set of resources that we would use to deliver the standards. Even if the standards were to morph or modify over time, we still have the resources that we could use to teach those skills.
So they update what we buy annually, whatever standards get changed?
Standards are not something that's going to change annually. Common Core took many, many years to produce, and there's a lot of research out there that says that this is where we're going with English language arts for the Common Core. That I don't see that changing overnight. So your question was, are these things going to be updated? Well, the materials we're purchasing, the hard stuff, that would need to be a part of a review cycle down the road, doing an inventory of what we have. Does it meet the needs of what our learners have? The electronic stuff, that gets updated, absolutely.
So I guess I want to understand the 6 year, what does it do for 6 years? What
It
happens?
tracks student data for 6 years. So the license for a student, so let's say they're at kindergartner, as you do the materials and as you go through the series and you take the assessments, there's a 6-year site license for that product that we will need to address in 6 years.
So if we
Have
were
you
to-
seen the bid yet?
No, I haven't.
Until you see it, let's hold off on that question. It'll make more sense if you read it,
Okay,
trust me.
then I get it tonight.
We can always move this to an agenda
Well,
item.
and guys, remember, this isn't something that needs any action. You already approve, and that's what Kurt was trying to get to. You approve a curriculum budget, that's why it doesn't come to the board level. This is just, it sounds like a curriculum update report, so there'll be no need to bring in a sec. If we brought back every curriculum series, you've got art and ag, and, I mean, you've got a lot of curriculum series. That's why they don't come to the board level, that is an administrative thing,
Yep.
so.
It is interesting information
It
though,
is.
and it's new to me, so.
I think it's just interesting that this is something that we'll want to be considering for budgeting and curriculum now, is that it's not books anymore, it's
Yeah.
this stuff.
It's not all books.
You
It's
have-
not- it's
Still
not
books.
just books.
The majority of
Not
those
just
books.
books. Right, not just
But
books,
even if
yeah.
we're on a 10-year rotation, we still need to renew the digital products after 6 years.
And my bigger question is, for Mike, wasn't so much about the licensing, it's, talking with Aaron at WeTech, who unfortunately at times has been more right than we'd like him to be. He says, don't get a license that's gonna update for 6 years. He says after 3 years, they might just stop doing updates and say, we're done, we're moved on to a new program. You wanna buy the new one, great, the old one is just as it is, and you lose the last few years. So that's why I was asking that question, is what are they updating for the next 6 years? And if they decide after 3, we abandon this program, we're going to a new one, you can keep it, but this is the new way we're going, you have to reinvest.
It's a good question, Rob. We're actually meeting with the vendor on Thursday to finite our bid to get an actual hard number, so we know what to write the check out for. And that's a good question. What will our updates for the next 6 years look like?
And are they
And will we
guaranteed?
be grandfathered in if you decide to change the name of the series or whatever?
Right, if they change it to something else, will we still be in it, or do we have to buy something new?
Yes, it'll have some contractual obligations that they'll have to fulfill if it's 6
Right.
years.
And the other piece that's still missing, and we have to get that addressed, is 6th grade. Because technically, how you address the budget is K-6, remember? So when we put this in the budget, you've got about 60,000 budgeted, you're spending about 52,000 on this, which makes sense. I mean, they did a great job finding a product that matches needs and our budget, but we will have to address 6th grade as well. So that'll be something down the road that Tim will be looking at as something we will need to purchase as well.
Good question, Rob.
Let's move down to technology committee.
I attached it to the bottom of my superintendent report. Is that off? Sorry, yeah, exactly, there you go.
Just for trivia on technology, Kurt and I were at a WeTech meeting this last week. iPads have been around for 5 years. Seems like they've been around forever.
For a long time, yeah, it
Yeah.
does, doesn't it? Yeah, I agree.
So,
Things that Enrique, one of the things I really want to highlight, you can certainly read this, so I'm not going to read it to you, but one thing I do want to point out is that we are moving away from the Dell venues. Some of the meetings we've had previous, people have talked about how much they dislike the Dells. Dell is acknowledging this is remarkable, that they're letting us out of a lease for no cost. They're also allowing us to get out of the lease of the hard covers that we put on those. And you can see from here that Enrique has found devices at a much lower cost. This will bring down our overall lease, because we had a lease for 3 years with them. So that's kind of the highlight of his technology update, and that's at the bottom of mine. Just to save paper, I put them on the same one. We can quickly go into mine since it's already on here. Mosquito, a lot of you have been emailing about that. The building, we've had 4 more showings since the last meeting that we had. The roof has had some leaking, or I should say lots of leaking, when ice and snow freezes and then expands and freezes and does all that. We had some issues before Dave left for his family situation. He was able to patch a lot of that up, and it's looking a lot better. We also made the tiles look better, so it's presentable. Everyone that looks at the place obviously knows that the roof needs to be replaced. We don't hide that obviously from anybody. And the legislative update, I'm not gonna go ahead and read that too. I try to send them out to you when they're big. They just took their 10-day break, spring break, I'm not sure what it was, so I haven't sent you any updates because of that. But basically, as of last Tuesday, the House and the Senate committees are releasing their budgets. Big thing that the governor is continuing to push is the all-day, everyday preschool. There's a lot of things that go along with that. I think Derek has done a nice job of being proactive if that was to come. We're sitting in a great situation. We have a building down there that we have the space for them, but there's transportation issues, and there's still, the mandates that go along with providing those programs, who's paying for it all of that. So don't be fooled when you hear they're pouring all this money into education. What's interesting is look at the breakdown of it. If you do pre-K for the entire state of Minnesota, that's all of the budget. You're not going to barely even see 1% on the overall funding. So when we keep hearing money's going into education, money's going into education, I'll try to keep you up to speed on what percentage is falling in each one. Because what we really need to make things work and where we're at is 3%. We really do need that just to make things work before adding on another program. Obviously, we have really good numbers in our early education programs. We're actually full and we have a waiting list. So Cannon Falls is doing things right, and that's a good thing. It's just unfortunate if all the money is going to be poured into one program. I think most superintendents would say we'd love to see at least a year, maybe even 2, between all-day everyday kindergarten and all-day everyday preschool. Give us some time to kind of catch up and get that going. So with that said, I'm not going to read all this. It's there for you. But if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Why are we considering pre-K?
The governor has had this on his agenda since early on. We thought it maybe was just a kind of a election kind of thing. He is really putting everything behind it. That is his one stand. And even educators are a little confused on it because there's districts that just built kindergarten centers, went out and levied their taxpayers, and now they're going to have to go to their taxpayers again and to build a preschool center. Current laws don't allow us to transport them on buses. We would have to change actual laws where they don't have to be buckled in as a 4-year-old. There's so much. If we have the same class size, Derek, what'd you have for kindergarten roundup for a number? 70s, 80s?
Well, we're expecting 80. We sent out 90.
Sure.
We had 60 something.
Okay, so let's use a middle number of 80. If that's a normal class size, anywhere between 80 and 90, that means you guys will be purchasing another bus. We'll be adding a bus route, and all those things aren't going to be covered. Those unfunded mandates that we're talking about. The kindergartners were already coming. We added a few more that maybe didn't do the every other day program. But there's so much cost involved in this. We need time to kind of catch up with all-day, everyday kindergarten.
But why are we pushing so hard on the all-day pre-K? Is there solid evidence, or why are we as a...
Well, early literacy especially is just, there's a lot of research behind it, but there's also a lot of research that says some kids just aren't ready for that all-day, everyday kind of thing too.
Okay.
So. No, it's just like any topic, you can find research on either or. The states around us have it. I think that's a big push. But truthfully, most research, if you were to look at the majority, 3rd grade is kind of this level out grade. And that's what it confuses people is they're way ahead, and then they hit 3rd grade and there's kind of that level out. So I don't know, maybe Derek's going to have it in his report too. I know we were excited about kindergarten roundup, a lot of kids there, but I'd like to see it held off for a year just because we need funding in other areas, but I also understand the importance of early education. So. That's it.
These reports are busier than the main agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, moving down, staff development, anything for us?
No.
Okay. Transportation, we're meeting on Wednesday
Yeah,
at 9
Wednesday.
o'clock. Isn't it the
No, this
15th?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, this Wednesday, yep.
Tax deadline.
Yeah, tax day.
More to follow. Facility committee, anything working there?
Nope.
Dave's been
No,
gone.
Dave's been gone, but he is still working with the Brett and those guys from UNESCO. So we're still moving forward. They are planning on to meet this Wednesday. Dave's going to come back for a meeting, then go back down to Kansas. He's going to try to go back and forth.
Negotiations, nothing happening there, nothing will happen until
They
after
have
the legislative
filed, yeah, but
session.
we're going to wait till after that. Yep.
Other committees, anyone as a representative want to speak to any of these others?
Yeah, Ed Foundation fundraiser, April 25th, at Ken Golf Course.
Okay.
There.
Yeah, it's always nice to see us there as a board. I know that sometimes schedules, especially in the spring, especially if you got kids participating in events, is awfully hard, but if you can make it, please do.
Going backwards on committees if I can, technology, one of the things that kind of near and dear to my heart, I know about this, I've always given them a hard time about them, are the printers, copiers, fax machines. Huh?
We finally got it fixed for you.
Yeah, we're actually gonna cut what we had down to half. We had 47 copiers, printers, and faxes. We're gonna be down to 26, and 5 of those will actually go away eventually once our toner and everything runs out under a new program. Our equipment's old, so we're gonna probably enter into a new lease, which will be about, what'd she say, $12.44 more a day for all new equipment everywhere, but we'll have half as much equipment as we did before.
And it'll be new equipment. You know,
Yes.
the big ones are bringing in, we'll be able to monitor how much each staff member is printing, things like that, so that'll be
Yep.
nice.
So next phase of printing.
Thank you. And you did your SUPS report in its entirety?
Yep.
And no Dave Peterson, so we won't thank you there. Technology report, you dealt with that? Okay. Principals report. Derek?
Sure.
Since Mr. Hodges is just chomping to get started, I just
I know, I
thought
can
I'd
tell.
jump.
So my biggest thing right now is I'm busy with hiring. Obviously, I've got 4 positions I've got to hire for. We're going to be interviewing this Thursday for our kindergarten position and 3rd grade positions separately, and then I'll finish up with PE sometime the following week. I'm looking at Wednesday. Our PTO carnival last Friday was amazing. Lots of families there, lots of fun to be had, lots of paint on faces, if you haven't seen that. I don't know why kids do that to themselves, but they do. It was pretty good turnout. We're waiting to hear from final numbers, but it sounds pretty likely that we'll be able to finish the purchases of the clocks at the elementary, which is a big deal for me, and the PTO is excited about it because it's something that they started, you know, ultimately 2 years ago, and now they'll be able to finish that up and without doing an extra fundraiser. So they're proud of that, and I want to thank all the families and everybody that came out to support it. Kindergarten Roundup, as we talked about earlier, was a great success. We filled the entire cafeteria. We had about 60-some attend, families that is, and we sent out 90 registration packets, but again, not all of those come back, because not all of them bring them that year and whatnot. Some end up going elsewhere, but we're expecting around that 80 to 82 mark again. We'll know final numbers later on this spring. We had last year, if you remember, we were awarded a grant from the Minnesota Timberwolves for $5,000 in conjunction with our Book Buddies program that's governed by the Shepherd Center. We still have money left over for that, so we're bringing in the local author we brought in last year, Gordon Fredrickson. We're bringing him back, and he will present to the first graders. Again, they just loved it. He writes books about farmers and how, you know, fun books about kids and farming. So it brings that into our schools, and the kids just found it to be fantastic. So each kid will get a book, one of his books. He will autograph all of them before he comes. And it's kind of our celebration for all of the book buddies that come and read to our first graders every Thursday. And it's kind of a thank you to them and a celebration. So we're excited for that. Lastly, if you want more updates on what's happening at Cannon Falls Elementary, you can follow me on Twitter.
What's that?
Or you can just go to #CFELEM to find out all the fantastic things that are happening at Cannon Falls Elementary.
Actually, we're going to have a breakout session in June. MSBA is encouraging all superintendents to get their board members on Twitter. And since we all are, we're going to have a session where we're going to bring in devices for you guys to set up Twitter accounts. And you're already there. That's right. We follow each other.
Yeah.
That's right. Josh follows us.
Twitter, but I don't know how to get back on.
We're gonna get you guys all in there. So that'll be a June. That's an MSBA drive to get all board members. So Mr. Bell, they will all be following you, and
Perfect.
Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Hodges and myself. They will be following us, and you've got to
That's
just
what
go
you
on
want.
just to see Tim's picture on Twitter. Like, it's very studious.
So is that little tic-tac-toe thing I see? From
That's a
that?
hashtag, yeah.
That's 20th century, we're in the 21st century.
That's exactly and truthfully where I am.
He's trying to figure out what the X's
I can't wait to see Bob on Twitter. It's gonna be good.
Tim, what do you have for us?
Just a couple of things. I attended a couple of sessions last week, one on career and technical education at Southeast Tech in Winona. 5 years ago, we had our career and technical education program approved by MD, and it's up for approval again next fall. So we'll have some staff working diligently to get that all up to date. Career and technical education counts ag, industrial arts, business for us. And by getting those programs approved, then we can access Carl Perkins funds and a little bit of CTE money also. An acronym that may be new to all of you that you'll be hearing a lot in the next couple of years is MTSS, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. If you want to think RTI, that's kind of what MTSS is, except it applies not only to reading, but also to math and to behavior. Derek and I attended, along with some staff, a working session last week, and it was a good session. There will be a lot coming down in the next few years with MTSS. It's really a big deal changer for the way schools operate. So it has to do with how we support struggling students and ultimately how students will qualify for special education services. So, and I was just thinking of this as I put in my report, this might be something that would be good to have a board report on from somebody besides me.
And we're gonna wanna kind of wait to see where Sherry Johnson goes with some of this, because there's a lot of funding that is gonna be attached to this too. If you aren't aware, and I'm sure you read your updates from MSBA, but the funding formulas for special education have completely changed, and this component is going to be critical in that funding formula. So to fix the cross-subsidy issues, you know, they're doing some of this so that there's some validity in what's coming out of that. So it's great that our principals are getting educated on this, because it's going to be vital to what we have coming our way.
Yep. Again, you've already heard, but Enrique has been working hard on some tech issues with the Dell Venue tablets. I've expressed my frustration with these devices since early on, and I think, you know, ultimately we're better off by moving on to a different platform. So. And not only that, but I know our students have had frustrations with them, our staff has had frustrations with them. Ultimately, I think we'll end up with better products for a less amount than what we are working with right now. We're working on student scheduling already, so our goal is to have, to put a student schedule in kids' hands before they leave for summer break. And Mrs. Hoffman and I are working on that. Mr. O'Keefe's going to talk about testing. That's a big deal coming up here in the next few weeks. A couple of things coming up. I guess if I go in chronological order, May 2nd is prom. May 5th is our fourth quarter conferences already. I can't believe how fast that's coming up. And on May 14th, we'll have a 5th grade parent orientation for students who are moving from the elementary to the middle school. So I'll talk a little bit about what they can expect from their kids in the next couple of years, and hopefully they'll still decide to, you know, I guess they don't have a choice. They're going to be middle school parents regardless of what they hear from me, but they'll hear some fun things about what they can expect from their kids if they haven't had a middle school kid yet. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Mike?
'Tis the season for standardized testing, so I wanted to give you all the dates so you kind of have a heads up. In the event that I speak too quickly, there is these dates as well as some tips on how to support your child are found on the webpage. They were also tweeted, and a letter should have been brought home either Friday or today with your child. So April 20th through the 24th, which is next week, is our week to do the reading assessments for the MCA. That's grades 3 through 8 and 10th grade. The week of April 27th through May 1st is our MCA math for grades 3 through 8 only. That week is also our state-issued ACT test on Tuesday, April 28th, and that is for our juniors. The week of May 4th through the 8th is our science week for 5th, 8th, and our 10th grade students. That's the MCA science assessment. And then also that week will be the MCA math for our juniors. We didn't feel like it was the right thing to do to put their math at the same week as their ACT. We really wanted some mental drain, that would have been it. So we moved their math to a different week than the rest of the students. And then May 11th through the 21st is when we do our STAR reading and math assessments, and that's part of our GCED assessments we do for longitudinal studies of our students. So they take that 3 times a year, and that's the last window of the year for that. So legitimately April 20th through May 21st, our students will go through a series of assessments that'll give us a good indicator of achievement levels and gives us a plan for next year. So.
And AP testing starts.
Well, and I didn't even get there.
Middle of May too. So.
Yeah, so there's 16 days of AP testing in the event that we offer it. So that's a student generated assessment. So we actually have that scheduled too. There's 2 a day, 2 4-hour segments. So students who are in AP, May gets to be pretty busy for them as well. So thank you.
No, Jake, so we'll skip down to item 8, students report. That would be you, Matt.
All right, so Slice of Jazz will be held in the cafeteria this upcoming Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Come listen to some student talent about jazz choir and jazz band groups. A slice of pie and refreshments will be served as well. Let's double. Congrats to the Cannon Falls speech team. It sends 16 competitors to the state tournament this year. They took first at sections this past Saturday at Byron. Class A state is this Friday at Lakeville North High School. The middle school spring fling dance is at the CCC on April 24th from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Admission is $3 at the door. On April 16th, students have the opportunity to pledge their silence for an entire school day. Sponsored by the We Act group, the pledge costs only $5, but the cause is priceless. Supporting individuals who do not have the right to talk freely by vowing a day of silence, those who are bullied and have lost their human rights, that they have been taken away. We recognize them. We just have a day of silence throughout the classes. And this is just student putting in money and just reflecting, that charity. So. The track team continues with their regular season with the Varsity Invitational at Faribault this Thursday. And they've only had 1 cancellation, which is way better than a season ago, might I say. Cannon Falls Varsity Softball is looking for a win against Goodhue tomorrow night. They're 0-2 right now, but they'll get better. The varsity baseball team is 3-1, and they just played Goodhue today. Find out how they did.
If we could check Twitter, we would know right now.
You beat them 9-0.
They beat them 9-0?
They beat 9-0.
All right.
Good.
What
4-1.
did you do next Saturday?
Next Saturday. State is this Friday. Yeah.
Friday.
I want to go up to AA, which is Saturday, so then next Saturday I'll have a Saturday off. Pretty excited.
Talk to us a little bit more about speech and this tournament state.
So the state tournament, it features 8 sections, and they're across Minnesota, but there's single A and then there's double A, and we're a part of single A. And we go up Friday, and there will be 24 in each category, and there's 13 categories. Do you want me to go through all 13?
No.
Okay. A normal tournament is 3 rounds, and there's going to be 6 people, and there's 4 rooms for each category. 6 people, 1 judge, and then the top third of the tournament go to finals. So top 8, and then a winner will be announced for each category. Well, everyone gets a medal, but it's all about who wins it all.
How about the section? We won the section.
Yes, we go to Byron. We've been going to Byron for several years now, and team sweepstakes we won about 100 something to 32. So that's pretty nice.
So our competition in a lot of cases is the AA people that you'd like to go and see.
Yeah, we face them in the regular season, but we don't have to face them in postseason play. But it's nice to see what they're doing too, because I mean, even though they're a level A above us, they're still like us. They're doing what we do, but it's nice to learn. So.
You compete against the double A's all season, and then you go down to single A when you get to the HBL into sections,
Yeah.
subsection sections. So
And
they
all-
get easier almost, really.
And everyone's like, whoa, it's way different from double A to single A. And it is.
And we're sending more kids to state than any other.
This is,
single-
yeah,
We are,
16 kids.
yeah, 16 above everyone else in single A, so that is very, very.
And you're one of the 16. Yes, congratulations to the whole team. That's exciting to see where we compete more than anything else. I mean, we elevate our game and compete very well with these double A's.
It's a heck of a program. Do you get some kids still in it? Maybe
I was talking to Vandy and we thought 90 and then it ended up like a high 70, like 77, I think, at the end of the year. So, I mean, that's still impressive. And
2 buses.
2 buses, I mean.
That's insane. I remember when it was like 14.
I think Mr. Vando said that there are 2 events that we swept at sections. So
Yes.
three students in each event go
Yep.
from section to state. And there
And
were
that-
2 events that
Yeah, there was
we got all 3
discussion
slots.
and
So.
let me think. Oh, yes, yep.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good
Great
luck,
job.
and
Yeah.
let them know the board is acknowledging them and their success. That's pretty impressive. Very. Upcoming meeting, the 27th. We have a variety of things already on there. Presentation from Ellers coming in.
Yep, Ehlers is our financial group. I'm gonna also have them bring school perceptions in. I think it'd be good for you guys to hear what companies can do to help you run a referendum. We need to survey our community, we need to find out what their needs are and what they want from us. So they're just coming to give you a presentation. I told them 15 minutes tops, and we'll go from there.
John Birch Park agreement.
Almost done.
That
Yep.
contract has ended, and we do have a contractual
Yep.
between
And
John
we're
Birch Park.
really close to being done. It's more of a timing thing. Ron Johnson's been out, and then I had meetings, and it's just been kind of back and forth. So it's almost done.
Update on logo. That was started, I think, by Ryan.
Yeah.
Mr. Hodges, I guess, has all the details on it, so we're.
This one? Yeah,
You don't need,
that one.
you don't need any instructions tonight.
Today's a vote.
It gives you 2 weeks to get it.
I'll tweet Ryan and have him
Yeah.
get it all.
He's a little busy today, isn't he?
What's that?
He's a little busy today, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah, he's running
He's
for
running for
president of the
president of
school.
sophomore class.
Oh,
Today.
now he's running for president of the sophomore class.
Yeah.
Already?
You're gonna do it sooner or later.
Oh, yeah. You got the president of the freshman class, I guess you know.
Yeah.
Keep working.
Fundraiser list is among the agenda items. Resolution for participation, which is a very standard do every spring. So anything else that you'd like to have added on, please contact Lori or Beth. Nora?
I was just gonna tell you, if you hadn't heard, Miranda was one of 50 students who won a full scholarship through the State Department to spend the summer in Oman. So.
Oh, she won that?
through- Yeah, because Mrs. Nelsmo brought it up to her, so.
Okay, great.
She's one of 50 people in the United States who will go to the State.
I'm sorry, what's the sponsorship for it? Or
It's the State Department,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, impressive. Congratulations to
So
her.
just so you know, you had somebody
Thank
going
you
there.
for acknowledging that. Okay, anything else for the cause? If not, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by whom?
I'll say it.
By Josh. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.